sights to show you.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Welcome to the Horror Syndicate Discourse. And tonight we were talking about the 2020, and Nate pointed this out before the show, kind of forgotten film because of what happened shortly after its released, and we will not go into that. But the 2020 film and the final film that I think all three of us saw in the theater, The Invisible Man, which is a really good, underrated movie. If you haven't seen it, I think this is an absolute must. And tonight we're going to go over every little bit that we can. Nathan has a must see, or you got to see, must see from, I believe, Japan. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panel with Seth tonight because we got to test out his connection. Seth, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay.
There we go. Love hearing your voice. Are we getting a sequel to this awesome movie? I have no idea. I hope so. Something. What do you think, Seth?
It's possible. I don't know what Lee Wannall's doing now, but like, it almost kind of seemed like something was kind of being set up by the end. And there is an original Invisible Woman movie as part of the Universal legacy. So we'll see.
It's been 3 years, so I'm not holding my breath. I'll go ahead and introduce Nathan. Nathan, how you doing?
I'm good. I did read that Elizabeth Moss said she would totally be down to do another one. So, again, like with COVID hitting when it did, I don't know how that affected that movie's potential for a follow-up. I think the world went crazy and people kind of forgot it, but it seemed like everybody liked it. I mean, it was the last thing I saw before theaters shut down.
Yeah, same here. Seth, I believe, was it the last one you saw too?
Yeah.
So at least we went out on a high note, right?
Yeah. I remember thinking, that may be the last movie I ever see in a movie theater. Because
I know.
we
Wouldn't that
didn't
be
know
weird?
what was going to happen. If this was ever going to we're going to get through this.
Yeah. If theaters shut down today, what was the last movie each of you saw in the theater? For me, I believe it was Indiana Jones. No, it was the Reanimator the other night. Sorry.
It's Barbie.
Barbie? Okay.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Okay. Well, I've heard good things about both, so I want to see Oppenheimer pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some Sean Sheridan. I'm glad he likes it. He's a tough sell. He always comments like 4 or 5 times before we start. He just can't wait. Has something to say about spouse abusers, want to control husbands or wives. Yeah, 100%. This movie is kind of special. Last one, yeah, see? Same thing. I think the first movie back for me was A Quiet Place 2. Only negative.
Oh, they were fucking fantastic. James and Sydney?
Mm-hmm.
Love them.
I thought they were too. Alex Ross Vanover's here also. Say hello, fellers, if you want. Oh. Okay. That didn't work very well. But if you're new here, of course, hit the subscribe button, like the post, all that good stuff. We're going to get into it right now. And first, we're going to go ahead and go with your gotta see this, Nate.
All right.
I want to get into this one because I've not seen this, and I'm not 100% sure Seth has seen this one, which is The Invisible Man Appears.
Yeah, I just watched this for the first time today, actually. Considering I'm trying to find things that I haven't seen, or I imagine a lot of people haven't. Arrow did put that out. This is like the cover from Arrow's release. Definitely looks like Graham Humphrey's artwork.
Great looking artwork.
Yeah, he's one of the best out there. And so I just went through looking at any other adaptations of H.G. Wells's book and went through a few that that weren't Universal, and the ones that a lot of our people have seen, like Hollow Man and stuff like that. But I came across this one, and it had a pretty good response from people. It's a Japanese film from 1949. It's based on the book, but loose, very loose adaptation. Kind of a crime noir film in many ways. There's a professor who's trying to break the mystery of invisibility, and he has two students who are rivals, and they're kind of rivaling over the same girl. I think it's his daughter, the professor's daughter, I think. And but they're all three trying to break this whole invisible thing, and they each have different problems, and they're all going different routes. And the professor, the mentor, basically has figured it out with animals, but he hasn't tested it on humans because he hasn't figured out a way to bring a human back from invisibility. And so, anyway, this guy who's a criminal overhears it or finds out about it, and there's a diamond necklace that's real expensive that he wants to steal, and he gets this plot where he figures out a way to get it using this invisibility serum. So what he does is he kidnaps the mentor with his serum, and then they tell the mentor's missing, and so everyone's looking for him, and one of the students kind of discovers him, and they kind of trick him into taking the serum, and then they won't give him the antidote unless he goes and steals this diamond, this necklace. So they're holding his the antidote until he does this. Kind of like in classic noir would be, hey, if you don't go rob this bank, we'll kill your family or something. We got your people hostage, so the innocent guy goes and robs the bank, kind of thing. And so it's like that. He has to go steal these diamonds, or he can't return back to visibility. But the other side effect of the serum is that it turns you violent over a course of time, where you become unhinged, and so it's I thought it was pretty good. I don't want to say it's an amazing film, but it was a fun film. It had again, a nice crime noir, which was pretty much what was going on in the 40s. That's pretty much where cinema was. The effects were done by the guy who went on to do Godzilla. So this is pre-Godzilla.
Wow.
And there was this follow-up that was made about a decade later, and I didn't watch it, but this is on YouTube, and I think the other one's on YouTube, and Arrow put them out together. And I think it's The Invisible Man versus the Human Fly. I don't know if it's like The Fly, like the Vincent Price. The Fly.
Really?
Or it said something about a serial killer in The Invisible Man, and the Invisible Man's a cop, so I don't think it's totally connected to this one.
Interesting.
But it's supposed to be a follow-up to this one. But yeah, it was worth it. It was like an hour and 20 minutes long on YouTube. And again, there's the Arrow video release. It's not perfect condition. They tried to remaster it as good as they could, but the existing prints of it were like 16 millimeter, and they had problems that they couldn't mess with it, or they would just destroy things. So it's not a perfect transfer. It's not ugly. It's good. It looks good for 1949 Japanese film. But they're out there from Arrow, and I just figured I'd watch something Invisible Man related that I hadn't seen and never even heard of. And I imagine a lot of people, there's probably people out there who have, because a lot of people follow Arrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen the title before myself, but I didn't know what to think of it, because Seth did an article on the horrorsyndicate.com ranking all the Universals. I was like, wait, what is this? And that's about as far as it went. But Seth, have you seen this one?
I have not. I didn't even hear about it until Nate mentioned it in the chat, and then I was on Amazon earlier, and then it popped up. So it's kind of weird like that. But
It's trying to get you. It's trying to entice you. Well,
I
I
think
know
the
that you do
government
like
wants me to buy it.
Invisible. It does, yeah. I think that you do like Invisible Man type movies because I know you're a big fan of Hollow Man, which I do believe is underrated. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I think Seth does like it, but I like it quite a bit.
I haven't seen it since it came out.
Um,
I love Hollow Man. Yeah.
do
There
you
was
like?
another. There was another one I wanted to see. That's a 1984 BBC TV miniseries that's supposed to be very close to the book. That has pretty good ratings, and I think it's on like Internet Archives to watch. So it's about 3 hours long, I think. So I would have watched that, but I didn't have time to watch 3 hours worth of something. But um, they do say it's pretty close to the book and pretty good.
Which one? This one?
The 1984
Oh,
BBC
oh,
miniseries.
yeah. I've heard that the BBC does
Yeah.
a pretty decent job. So, Seth, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I've heard that too, and I think that was like one of the only adaptations of the book besides the newest movie that came out, Fear the Invisible Man. But the that miniseries was like one of the only ones that included the character of Thomas Marvel. Who was kind of like a side character in the book. They kind of condensed him and the character Kemp together for the original movie. But that's a character that's always sort of been omitted from any film adaptation.
We do have a Thomas in this one, right? The brother is Tom, I believe.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Needless to say, when we do get into the conversation, there are spoilers ahead for anybody who has not seen this. That is actually why Jared's sitting this one out. He's not seen this yet, and I don't think he wants to be spoiled. So we're going to get into the conversation, and Nate's got a scene breakdown and some scenes he wants to talk about. But overall, thoughts on this after you saw it 3 years ago, Seth? What were your thoughts after seeing it originally? I know you wrote a review on theHorrorSyndicate.com, but tell us now.
Yeah. So I mean, when I went into it, I saw the trailer, so I knew that it wasn't going to be the H.G. Wells story. It was going to be title only. Main character has the same surname, but that's about it. Where the similarities come in. But I actually really liked it, and one of the things I really liked about it too, I think the thing that that appeals the most to me is the cinematography and the direction, with the way that Lee Winnell builds suspense and the way everything's framed. And that was one of the big reasons why I was looking forward to this one too, because I saw his previous movie Upgrade right before it, and so I kind of like had an idea that this was going to be a good visual movie, and it was. And you know, I'm a little conflicted on the idea of the suit. I'm kind of a little bit of a traditionalist in that aspect, where I wish it was kind of like the formula and the wrap bandages and stuff like that. But it was a neat little take, and I also thought it was in the right direction, right? Because Universal has been trying to get their classic characters off the ground for years, but they've been doing them wrong. They've been trying to do big, sort of like almost like action movies, you know, bigger budgets than you need. You don't need to have every mummy movie have some big face in a cloud or whatever. And then what they did here was they teamed up with Blumhouse, and they did it on a reasonable budget, and they made it a horror movie again. And they kept the Invisible Man as the villain of the story, as opposed to trying to make him the anti-hero. And I know that some of the previous Universal films have done that before. The Invisible Revenge of the Invisible Man or whatever it was, or no, the Invisible Man Returns, stuff like that. But I thought this was a good new take. I thought it was well filmed, and I appreciated the fact that it was a small budget horror film.
Yeah,
Back to you.
I think Lee Winnell did a great job. I didn't expect this from him. I mean, he is quite the creator because he was partially created Saw, and I think Insidious, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was pretty pleased with this movie because I didn't have that high of expectations. I've never personally been a big Invisible Man Universal guy. I liked Hollow Man, back in 2000s or whatever. But like, it never was a big thing for me. But I went in and saw this, and I was like, damn, that was a damn fine film. Um, I liked it quite a bit. Nate, what were some of your views? I know that what you said off, offline or whatever, but tell these fine people what you think.
I think it's a great horror film. I think it's also a really great thriller. My mom asked me what we were doing tonight, and my mom's not into horror much anymore. She used to watch them sometimes with me, but she's just not. It's not her thing. And I said, I think you'd
Mhm.
like this one because it's very much it's just as much a thriller in the sense of like, sleeping with the enemy or shit
Yeah,
like that, and but it just has this supernatural. But it's not really supernatural because it's the suit, and it's this guy who's into surveillance and has built this thing and is doing. I mean, he's playing there's a lot of movies about controlling psychotic, sociopathic, narcissist
gaslighting.
ex-husbands, gaslighting
Yeah,
and you're not going to leave me. Psychopaths coming after women who have tried to flee their abusive husbands. So it fits in that Hallmark movie, or not Hallmark, was it the Lifetime
Lifetime. Yeah,
type of movie, but a whole lot better.
yeah.
Like as Seth said, very well made, very well thought out. There's a lot of great filmmaking going on and storytelling in this film. It's a very tight made film, as you said, low budget. Uh, the Invisible Man affords you that because you don't have the villain is invisible, which you kind of filmed this movie, and this movie especially more than any other Invisible movie. It's basically a haunted house movie because you're filming them like a ghost film. There's a lot of
Hmm.
things that Lee does that his buddy James Wan did in the Conjuring films. He actually even homages the Conjuring a few times in this movie with the bedsheet scene and a few others, and just the way he uses empty space and negative space.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Which
so
Scott Derrickson's very good at as well.
this is basically a ghost film without a ghost.
Well, no, it is kind of a ghost film, if you think about it,
He's
because
supposed to be dead.
it's supposed to be dead. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's jump into that. Let's talk about the story and have a nice discussion about the story because I like the story. The story is extremely compelling, and we've gone over it a little bit already. But with her the opening scene of her getting all her stuff together, being as quiet as possible, and we've got the breakdown that you have. But I really like the story and how she's got this great relationship with a cop and his daughter, and like they build everything up really well, and how she's terrified of going outside. Like she can't even go to the front, the street. She's so terrified of this guy because you got to think about the abuse that she endured. You don't really get that sense because I watched this with my daughter, and she was, "Why is she doing all this?" And I was like, "I don't want to give it away," but he was a bad dude. And then you get to see kind of some growth, especially after she finds out that, again, spoiler alert, he's dead. But
Yeah, like
you know,
no one but her knows how dangerous and how horrible and how evil this guy is, and how manipulative and how far he'll go to get his way. And that's what's really creepy about it. And it's again, like you said, the gaslighting, or just in the same way that Nancy, no one will listen to Nancy because she's talking about a ghost that's haunting them or killing them or whatever. No one believes her, and this is great. I was asking that question: if does Cecilia qualify as a final girl? Um, can we put her in that category? And if so, she's one of the best to ever do it. Because Elizabeth Moss is one of the best actresses of her generation.
That's a great
And
question, actually.
This is a hell of a performance.
Well, I mean, if you think about the I like the parallel to Nancy that you make, because if you think about Nancy's going through all this stuff basically alone, nobody believes her, and then she fights back, and this happens with
And Moss
Cece
has to do it.
Celia in this, yeah, and boy does she fight back too. She's great. I don't know, that's a great question, Seth. What do you think? And anybody out there, does Elizabeth Moss's character fit into the final girl category? I say yes, 100%. Seth, what do you think?
I don't know, maybe if she had another movie or two,
Oh,
I could
stop.
see that.
Lee wrote the script. He
Lee
wrote,
Winnell.
wrote and directed the film.
Yeah, but what do you think of the parallel to Nancy's character? Sean says yes.
Yeah, there. I mean, Nate's absolutely correct. There is that parallel there with, she knows something's true, no one will believe her, and she gets to a point where she starts to kind of be a little proactive. It takes a lot of mental mind fucking to get her to that point, but
Yeah,
There's a little bit of Sarah Connor.
I was
in
just
there,
gonna
too.
say that,
Yeah.
like especially in T2, like that scene where she's talking to the doctor in T2. I can't think of his name, and there's the scene where she's
Sure.
talking to the cops in this, and it's like, it's kind of very similar to that scene. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, Lee Winnell is a great storyteller. I mean, if you just based it off of this movie alone, he's a great storyteller, because you can almost say, I know a lot of people probably call this a remake, but this is its own type of movie. Yeah, probably. Smart weaving is the best.
I think his writing has improved since Saw.
Saw.
But even so, Saw was pretty good back then.
He's got 20 more years of professional filmmaking
True.
under his belt.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this is definitely his best, in my opinion, script.
Yeah, it's very, very tight too. I like the story. I like where it starts.
Upgrade is good too, though.
Say that again.
I said Upgrade is really good too. If you haven't seen that one.
Upgrade's good.
I don't think I've seen that.
I need to go back to that one.
Is that that's a Lee Winnell?
Yeah.
Let me look at that one real fast.
Got Tom Hardy clone in it.
Tom Hardy clone.
Yeah, the guy, I can't remember what his name is. He looks a lot like Tom Hardy, especially in that movie.
Logan Marshall Green.
Yeah, he was in the Invitation.
Yeah. And Prometheus.
What was the one you said, Nate?
What?
The Invitation?
The Invitation, which was a fantastic movie.
The vampire movie?
Been suggesting. No, it's the one where he's invited to a party, like a dinner party with all these people, and there's some crazy shit goes down at this party. It's a great movie.
There's a movie called Would You Rather that's kind of the same idea with
when I saw that trailer, I thought, this kind of looks like The Invitation.
There's a couple movies for us to check out. Anybody has an Upgrade and The Invitation. But yeah, overall, and I want to talk about it now, but we're going to get into some of the other things. But the ending, what did you think of the ending? Because there's that one scene in the restaurant that I think a lot of people talk about with her sister, which she ends up pulling that same thing in the end, which I fucking love. Both of those scenes are just some of the greatest moments in this movie. Even though this movie, in my opinion, is full of great stuff. But what did you guys think of the end of this one? Yes, I did. I love slow burns. Gives you a lot to think about. Seth, go ahead.
I mean, I think the ending was it was earned. Like what she did was completely earned. You're at a point where you're kind of rooting for her, and like he's been lying through his teeth, and and it's not enough for her to just have a gotcha moment, get him on recording to admit to everything. Like this is the guy that killed her sister right in front of her and framed her for it. And I felt like it was a really earned moment, and I love the ending to it. I love the way the score is. I just love the way how it all plays out. I think it was a really solid ending.
Yeah, which we'll talk about the score in a second because I like the score. What did you think of the ending, Nate?
I really love the overall film. Like as said, it's earned. It's all played out because really this is like a master chess game between them. Like she has to outthink him and use his own shit against him because he has planned out so much. He's so ahead of everybody, and she's the only one who knows how talented he is at this and how meticulous and how far he'll go for it. And no one else believes it. She knows, and she's, and I'll break it down in that opening scene, but even in the opening scene, she's having to use his technology against him in order to do what she does. And she ultimately knows. She knows where that camera's pointing. She knows, like, she's going in there with that plan. She knows what's going to be captured on film, where she needs to stand, where what needs to happen in that camera frame. And, it's great because she's like, surprise, I got you. Like I get, he was so confident because he's a narcissist and he thinks he's got everybody beat. He's got everybody fooled. He knows he doesn't have her fooled, I think, because he knows she knows him, but he also knows that I've ruined her life. She has no other options but, to go with me and do what I have set all this up to happen. It's again, it's a chess game, and she checkmates on his ass.
Yep. A dose of his own medicine. She discovered that technique, the suit, and she used his own toys against him, which was great. And she's finally free of him completely because he ain't coming back from that. Yeah, I love the ending, and I love the little conversation with I forgot his name in the movie. Aldous Hodge, I think is his name.
Tom, the brother.
Well, no, the cop.
Oh, the cop, Mike. Yeah. James. Yeah.
Yeah, he was, which I love him as well. But the little conversation they had was really great. At the end, he's got this look on his face like he's completely shocked, but like, again, it goes back to if everybody knew what she had gone through, and I'm curious to know what happens after this for her, because of his, he framed his, I don't understand. One thing I didn't understand about this was the brother, the lawyer. So he was the Invisible Man. They were both the Invisible Man, I'm guessing, right? At different points. Mm-hmm. So his brother was going along with this the whole time, just a way to get her. Is it to get her back or to make her go crazy? What was their end game?
His brother was a victim just like she was of him, and he hated him. And I think he probably had his brother blackmailed or, holding his brother to, like, I can ruin you anytime I want kind of thing. And I think his brother was going along with whatever he had to just survive whatever his brother was doing to him. Or, I really like that guy's performance. I every scene he's in, it's like his intensity or just the way he looks, and he's reluctant. It's like he's reluctant to be there. And there's really nice details about the making of that. Like, they put suits on him that were too small, so that there was just something like that doesn't fit with him, and is always off. So if you look at his suits, the sleeves are too short, the pants are too short. Like I went back and watched it. I was like, yeah, it is. Like, and they said it was a subliminal thing in his costume to make it like there's just something that doesn't fit in with this guy. And then, the whole thing, like, you're like your brother, but you just don't have a spine. You're a jellyfish version.
Yeah, I like
really
that line.
Great line. But yeah, I don't think he was. I think the only time he was in the suit was when they go to attack the daughter, and I think both of them were there, because when she's pepper sprays him from the bed, he collapses and falls down to the right, and she goes right out the door, and she's hit in front. She's knocked on her ass by someone in the hallway. There's no way he was there. Like the guy that fell, whoever fell, is not in that hallway to hit her as she's running toward it. So I think both of them were there attacking, and maybe that's even because if James comes home, maybe Adrian or the brother isn't equipped to handle that guy, because that's a professional cop, big tough guy. Even though he's fighting an invisible man, I think he was fighting two men in that scene.
That would make sense. That would make total sense. And they shot the brother, and then he got away and locked himself up in the basement.
Yeah.
God, I didn't think about that.
But the only reason the giveaway is go back and watch that scene after she pepper sprays him. He collapses to the light. She looks at him, and then she goes right out her door, and she's hit from the front. She's hit right in the chest and knocked down in the hallway.
Yeah, that's gonna make
and
me.
Whoever the guy was,
look for that.
Yeah, whoever was Invisible Man still in her room behind her. There's no way he could have got in front of her.
Oh, so
into the
most
hallway.
of the time it was Adrian then, like in the hospital.
Yeah, that was Adrian, because he speaks to her. He says,
Yeah,
in the rain, he says she would know that's not her husband's
that's
voice.
True. Yeah, that's true.
But the theory is that he probably called his brother and said, "All right, go get her."
Mm-hmm.
But he was there.
Yeah,
I think he was setting up his brother to take the fall for everything from the get-go. Anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense too. And he kind of did.
Yeah, he didn't want to remain dead.
Yeah, he was described as being, Adrian was described as being a master manipulator, and I think he had everything all sort of planned out. And, even his brother mentions, like you mentioned earlier, Nate, about how he says he hates him, and he fully planned on using his brother, and that's what he did. And I think, I think they were both there at the house for a reason, because no matter what, that was going to be the sort of the end of it. You know what I mean? Like, that was where Adrian's plan came to an end. Like, he was going to have his brother take the fall, I think. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, he is. He's a narcissist, so which means that everyone in his life, he doesn't really value them as human beings. He just values what they can give him, what he can get from them, or what he wants from them. And that would include family members. That would include his brother. And his brother probably just fucking hated him because Adrian's all about Adrian and what he wants. And he will go to the lengths of letting his brother go to prison or die just to get what he wants, which is, I guess, a baby. And also probably just saving face of getting her getting over on him and getting away.
Yeah. Yeah. And was she really pregnant?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't.
I was glad that happened, because when she said I was taking birth control because I didn't want to get stuck getting pregnant with him, I'm like, if this guy was as controlling as he was, he would have. How would she get birth control? And how would he not know about it? Because this guy, he surveillance everything. That's the thing about, like, even this is how good the filmmaking is and the writing is. Their occupations and their names relate to who they are and their characters. Her name is Cecilia, which is based on a Latin word that means what is it? I wrote it down. Cecilia means in Latin, like blind. She's blind. She can't see him. And his name is Adrian, which I think means water, or like which water is see-through. It's clear. But it goes to the professions. What does she do? She's an architect. And architects are about building walls for privacy. And he's a surveillance guy with all these cameras. He's about invading your privacy. So they're contradiction of each other, and everything about it is invading her privacy. She can't go anywhere. She's always being watched. She can't hide at all. from him, and that's the whole story of their relationship, and each character is so that's why that suit, even though Seth said he misses the serum, Lee at least made the suit relative to his occupation and her lack of privacy and always being watched and always being and trying to hide but never having her own space or privacy from him.
Yeah. You get you thinking. I didn't think about their names at all being so telling, I guess. Let's talk about the score before we do the cinematography and your segment. Seth, I always go to you first whenever it comes to the score of a movie because you seem to really have a passion for, I guess, theatrical scores. What were your thoughts? I actually like the score of this, especially the opening act with is very tension building.
Yeah, I agree. I can't remember off the top of my head who composed the music here,
Just had the name
but
too.
there is some good sound design too, where there's areas where there's not really a lot of music playing or it's very minimal. And then I think probably like one of the biggest pieces is at the end when it's all kind of triumphant after she does her thing. But I think the score was pretty good. It fit the atmosphere of the movie. It fit with the visual storytelling that Lee Whannell was doing. I thought it complemented the film perfectly, and yeah, it was good.
It's Benjamin Wallfish.
Okay,
I have no idea who
he
that
did.
is.
I think he did. Well, he did. I think he did. If I remember correctly, he's done It Chapter 1 and 2. I think he did some DC animated movies. The Flash. I think if it's the same person I'm thinking of.
He's known for Blade Runner 2049, Shazam, It Chapter 2, It, Invisible Man, Hidden Figures, A Cure for Wellness.
It's very Blade Runner. I like as
And The
Seth
Flash.
said, this movie really embraces silence, which is highly important to this film. Again, also important to haunted house movies. There is a minimal score, and when the score has an electronic kind of side to it, which kind of reflects his business. And the sound design, but I love that how much he uses silence. This movie's pretty quiet, and that just adds to the tension. And it's the same. There's a lot of things that he did in this movie that he kind of took from, as we said, the Conjuring films, but also Paranormal Activity movies were a big influence on him. There's a nod with was he put coffee beans on the ground? You see the footsteps and stuff. But the thing that made Paranormal Activity work very well was the use of silence because, and again, that negative space and the camera pans to things, and that's some stills I sent you was how much he's using negative space, which makes the audience look in that negative space to see something or expect Adrian to be there or pop out and all that. Just like in Paranormal Activity, when the camera pans over to especially in the second one, I think the second one had the oscillated cameras moving through the house. In the first movie, you had the static of the wide of the room, and you're just waiting for a sheet to move or something to appear or noise. Lee does that by filling most of the frame is just the house or an empty room or whatever, because he knows that the audience is going to be looking for something. Redneck Brother. What was on? I forget. But yeah, the sound design. Well, one of the cool things about the sound design is he gave the monster a sound that's unique. those cameras, the cameras zooming and not zooming, like so you could slightly hear it in the soundtrack when he's around, and she knows it, but no one else because it's so subtle. But it's kind of like the Predator's noise, or like a lot of monsters have a noise, and a werewolf has a growl and things like that. So he has that little electronic or camera shutter kind of sound that they used in the sound design that really was effective. And like they're very protective of the score, only using it when it's necessary, when it's very much helping the film. But when it's not, he allows that silence or just rain falling or stuff like that, because when something's not, when you're looking at empty space and wondering if there's something there, silence, like there's nothing scarier than being in a dark room in a silence looking around. Any little noise is going to make you jump, or just that quietness. It's there's an isolation, there's the emptiness of things. So the emptiness of the frame, emptiness of the sound and the soundtrack is a beautiful marriage in this film.
Yeah, very well said. Last thing I want to talk about before we get to cinematography is the overall cast. We talked about Elizabeth Moss and how great she is in this, but I think this is a very good. Gets a small cast too. There's only 4 or 5 main parts, if that. Elizabeth Moss and Aldous Hodge, his daughter, who's in a lot of things lately. I've noticed she was in Euphoria.
Storm is a really talented actress.
Yeah.
I just watched Missing recently with her, where her mom goes missing she goes on a vacation and doesn't come back. Really good thriller. And she was on Last of Us. She had a great episode on there.
She's making waves.
Yeah,
which is great because she plays
Storm Reed. I think I said
Reed,
right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
She's good. She was good in this. Very tall, also.
Very tall girl. Yeah. I think it may be more that Elizabeth may be short.
I agree, but Aldous Hodge is like 6'3", so
yeah,
she's almost as tall as him. It looked like, but
she's pretty tall.
Yeah, she was really good in this. I really like the relationship early between Elizabeth Moss and Cecilia and that family that she stays with.
Yeah. The ladder scene is a great scene.
Yeah, it is actually. But even so, like the scenes with her sister, like her sister saves her essentially from Adrian at the beginning of the film, and then that all that stuff happens with her, and I like the way her sister played that because the email and the dinner scene, that fucking that restaurant scene, so amazing.
He takes away all of her allies.
Mm-hmm.
He makes, to where he can't trust her around the daughter, and the sister thinks, what's with the email. That's what's amazing. He takes away everything from her. He gives her all this money only to take it away, take away her sanity, and take away.
The giving her the money and knowing that he's dead also made her feel a little bit freer. She went on a job interview and all that stuff. But yeah, I like I like the idea of thinking about what I would do if I were invisible. I don't think I'd do that, but he has that edge on everybody. That's why he can be ahead of everybody, because he's invisible. He sneaks that drug that she drugged him with into his drink, or into her drink before that interview, and and he's able to get in the house and watch her and pull the blanket off, all that stuff. Hit the girl.
Hit the girl.
Yeah. So, but yeah, overall, I think the cast is pretty damn good in this movie. I'd like to see. Elizabeth Moss is a really good actress.
So good. I mean, she's not afraid to look the way she looks in these films. Like, she looks totally unhinged. Like, Look at that. I mean, the her eyes, I mean, she's got amazing eyes for starters, and like they say so much. Like she's an actress who could do so much without speaking a word. Uh, and there's just something about her coming unglued in this movie and just continuously falling into her body language, everything about it, even the way she carries herself when uh, she looks like someone who is terrified and paranoid and uncomfortable at all times. She can't sleep, she can't rest.
No,
Uh,
man.
and everything about her choices as an actress. And Lee said like she taught him so much. Like he's worked with a lot of actors, but he said working with Elizabeth Moss made him a better filmmaker because this is an actress who is just on another level from a lot of people working. And uh, I haven't watched The Handmaid's Tale, but I don't know what's keeping me from it because everything I've seen her in, I've just been always impressed with her.
Yeah, I've only seen her in a couple of things myself. I've watched the first episode of that show, and I don't know why I didn't watch the rest of it. It was a good episode. Weird show. But yeah, she's really, there's, I don't know, there's something about her. Like she in this, she does look. I mean, she does look like she's falling apart. But something about her, like, I'm not trying. I don't want to be mean about it, but she isn't like overly attractive. Or she looks real.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
she like I said, she's not afraid. Like her hair is greasy. She's not wearing makeup. You see all the blemishes on her face. I mean, she
Yeah.
in this movie, she just and that's the great. Like one of the actresses I worked with once, that she was just talking about makeup and how she looks. She goes, I don't give a fuck how I look. Like she's and that's really the best thing you can ask for an actor or especially an actress because so much is about beauty and everything and um, but to allow yourself to go there and just say and look real. I think that's part of her charm is that when you look at it, like you said, you're seeing someone who you believe is real
Mhm.
and uh, and she just completely just the intensity in her eyes and her body language and her jaws and everything. I think it's we have seen in this genre some of the best acting from women in the last decade. From this to Toni Collette in Hereditary
Yes.
to Lupita in Us, uh,
Florence Pugh.
Pugh in Midsummer, and everything
Mhm.
else she's fucking done. We are getting some, and I don't see Moss mentioned for this movie. And again, I think that's why I just think has this movie been forgotten because of what happened right after it came out? Because
Probably. I mean, it did.
this is stellar.
Within the first couple weeks of it coming out, I looked at the box office. It made $144 million before everything shut down, which is impressive because it was only out for about 2 weeks before everything shut down. And it's a horror movie, $7 million budget. Yeah, I think it just like anything. Like I barely remember the first couple months of 2020 because of that. Like I also forgot a movie that I like. A lot of people did was the Harley Quinn movie.
Oh,
Uh,
I love Birds of
yeah,
Prey.
that was so much fun, and that was another one that I saw right before everything shut down. And I think just like this, it's something that got forgotten over the years. Because yeah, Elizabeth Moss, and plus another thing about her, you don't see her in many things either.
Yeah, she does like she done a lot of television. I think like what was it? Was she on Big Love, the Bill Paxton show? Wasn't she on there? And she was on Mad Men, I think.
Mad Men for a long time, yeah.
And I
Um,
can't remember what I first saw her in though. I
I
saw her
bet you,
before
I
she did
bet you won't
TV.
know. Yeah, I bet you the first thing I saw her in, you'll never believe this, Suburban
What?
Commando with Hulk Hogan.
I
Apparently,
think it
she
was.
was a little girl in that.
Oh, I that must have been after that. I know she. Of course, she. I just mentioned Us. She was in Us. She was great in that.
Hmm. She was in
Um,
Girl Interrupted, apparently.
Girl Interrupted may be the first one. Yeah, she was kind of the very prim and proper one. Very
Yeah,
kind of naive young girl. And that may be the
Mumford.
first thing I saw her in.
That's one I haven't seen in a long time. Remember
Mumford.
Mumford?
I remember. Is that the one with Christian Slater? Or
It's there's let's see, Jason Lee's in it, Martin Short.
yeah, Jason Lee.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in that one. She's in a lot of stuff, man. I never really realized how much stuff she's in.
The Missing, um, Girl Interrupted. That may be the first
Oh, Get
thing.
Him to the Greek. She's in that. I
She's.
have to
I
watch.
think she's about my age, isn't she?
No,
No,
no, she's younger.
she's
She's
younger.
younger than me,
Is she?
and yet older than Seth. Born in '82.
I know. I know. Lee is my age.
Lee Winnell.
Yeah, him and James Wan are like 46, 47.
Yeah, she's slightly younger than me.
I
Lee
guess.
Winnell is 77.
And then the same year she did this, I mentioned this on the show before. She played Shirley Jackson in Shirley. She was really good in that.
In what?
In the movie Shirley, she plays Shirley Jackson, who wrote,
Mm-hmm.
what was it, the Lottery and House on the Hill? Did she write that?
Haunted on
Or
Hill House.
the Haunted Hill House? Yeah.
I have to watch. I have not seen that before. Yeah, I'm looking through her filmography now. She's in a lot of stuff, but it's a lot of stuff I haven't seen.
It's not
Apparently.
indie stuff.
Yeah.
It's not mainstream stuff other than the
She
TV shows.
she did a voice in oh my god, this is awesome. So she does a voice in Batman the Animated Series, and it's the one with the Invisible Man. She plays a little
Huh.
girl who her dad comes and visits her, and that's her imaginary friend, and he gives her stuff. Her dad's the Invisible Man. Holy shit! How about that? That is amazing. Full circle. Anyway, let's talk about the cinematography in this one and get to your. I gotta watch more Elizabeth Moss stuff because she is really great. She's a great actress. I don't. I haven't seen Mad Men. I gotta be honest, that show bored the hell out of me. I don't know if I can watch that show.
I had a hard time getting into it, but I adore everyone in it. So
Yeah, right.
I know it's supposed to be one of the best shows ever. So I'm gonna have to finally force myself to stick with it because maybe it's just something that gets better.
I got 5 episodes deep into the first season, and I love John Hamm, but I just like, what is happening in this show? Like, what am I supposed to care about? Like, I don't know. I'd like to give it another shot. It's one of those shows that so many people loved.
Yeah,
It's just like Handmaid's Tale is one I'm going to have to watch eventually as well. Which the premise of that is bizarre. But anyway, so get into the cinematography. This is where we get into Nate's segment. Do you want to go over these scenes that you wanted to look at first, or you want to go over your scenes?
well, those scenes were just shots of like negative space to display that. So and just right, that shot right there is a wide, so you're seeing a lot of the room. There you got negative space, so it just makes the audience look in the corners into the empty space. So, and the
The
thing
shots
is,
of the kitchen were really great.
that's what's so good about this. Like I said, it's a $7 million budget. You can shoot this, and it's so effective, and nothing's there. It's just you're shooting a kitchen.
Yeah, like this scene.
Yeah, there's a room, and it's terrifying because the audience knows he's probably there, and a lot of that's based on her beautiful performance and her paranoia. And James Wan, one of my favorite scenes in The Conjuring is that doorway scene where the girl's saying there's someone standing behind that door, and we never see anything. And it's one of the scariest scenes in a horror movie of the last 15 years, in my opinion. And it costs nothing to do it because there's nothing there. It's all in performance and how you film it. And going back to that kitchen shot, I can bring up something about that.
Which one? The long shot.
The long shot where she's cooking and the knife comes down and all that.
Yeah.
So if I imagine everyone's seen this scene, she's cooking. It's a nice day. She thinks Adrian's dead. Everything. She's finally opening up. She's happy. She's making dinner for them. He's going to work. I think he comes in and leaves, and she goes out. I don't know, to walk him out or something, and
to wake up the girl.
Wake up the girl. Yeah, wake up the daughter, and the knife falls off the side. Obviously, something moved it off, and then something turns up the gas on the stove and it starts to burn. But it's a oneer. The shot stays static and wide. the entire time, all plays out in one shot. And Lee made a really good point. This is a scary choice for a filmmaker because it can work or it can't, and because normally you want to get coverage. So normally the rule would be to shoot him in a single or over the shoulder, and shoot her on a single when they're having their conversation, and then shoot close-ups of things, and just cover the scene so that, because you fear that the audience is going to get bored looking at this shot for however long the shot is, which is maybe even 2 minutes long.
I think part of it that works with this is, it's a oneer and it's a 2-3 minute shot, but you also your ears can hear what's going on in the background while watching it. I think that helps that a lot. I think it lends to the scene.
Yeah, so it's a shot that Lee had, that he went in going, I'm going to do this. And when they were shooting it, he said, I had the producers, and I had the cinematographer, and I had other crew people like, are we not going to get coverage? We should get coverage. And he's like, he goes, a little advice to indie film, beginner filmmakers. If you have a vision and you stick to your guns, he said, because the thing that people are going to remember are the things that are unique. And so this scene is unique. It's one of the things you think about when you think about this movie, because it's so different, because it's not, if it had been cut up like normal, like it had all that coverage and it cut to him and cut to her and all that when they're in their conversation, it wouldn't have the effect, because it's staying static and it's staying there long and it's mundane, and you're like, something's going to happen. And I had the same thing happen on my new film. I have a static shot that goes on for almost 5 minutes, where I went in saying, I'm going to let these actors do this scene because I wanted it to feel real. I didn't want to cut away because I wanted it to feel like a voyeuristic, I'm not going to tell you what the scene is, but I went in with the plan of not getting coverage, because I said, if these actors can pull this scene off, it's going to work. And as I was filming it, I was like, yes, I don't need coverage. This is going to work. The actors felt it. One of the actors, Jason Crow, who some people know from a lot of independent films, Harvest Lake and stuff, he said that was really cool because I felt like I was in theater again, because I didn't cut. He was like, they were able to play this whole scene out like it was real, and it feels real. It felt real for them. It felt real for us watching, and it's going to feel real for the people at home watching. But it's a risk. And he goes, sometimes you just got to go for it. It's scary. Other people are saying you don't do that. Get your coverage. But it's those scenes that, and when I was showing the rough cut of my film to the composer, who's a really sharp filmmaker himself, he said, this works. He goes, it works. So when Lee said that, I'm like, it makes me feel a little more comfortable, because he's right. People will walk out of the film talking about that shot or that moment because it's so different. It's not what you see. It's usually cut, especially today. Everything's cut. How many cuts can we get in? How many? And the thing is, if it looks like every other scene, then you don't think anything about it. It stands out because it's different. It dares to be different. That's the great thing about oneers. People really remember oneers, like the great Goodfellas oneer, where you follow Ray Liotta and Lorraine Bracco through the kitchen and into the restaurant. If they had just walked into the kitchen and walked into the thing and cut, no one would remember that scene. It wouldn't matter. But but it's those moments in filmmaking that remain and are remembered long after the movies come out. And I think that shot, it's simple. It's just them having a conversation. Knife falls off. Stuff starts burning. They come and turn it off. They don't even know. The audience knows this happened. They don't know. They're like laughing about it or whatever. They have no idea the danger that's in that kitchen right now. The audience knows. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that's really good also with filmmakers, is let the audience know things that the characters don't. Sometimes the characters know. Reservoir Dogs is a great film for that. The way Quentin structured that movie is, there's things, by the time you get to the end of Reservoir Dogs, the audience knows so much about who's who and what's happened and all that, and it makes it stressful for the audience watching, because like, you're wrong, Harvey Keitel. You're wrong. Joe's right. So it's great filmmaking.
Yeah, totally agree. You ready to get into those? Well, not those. The scene, I guess. It's not. It's one scene essentially, which I do really like. This is the way the movie opens too.
Yeah, great opening.
And yeah, it's first of all, before we even get into that, I wanted to ask you guys when I was watching. Man, I'm glad I remember this now. Is how did you? I like the credits. You see the waves hitting the rock and the bluff and everything, and then you see the words pop up, and the Invisible Man comes on, and as it's like the water's hitting the word. It's so cool. I thought that was
great
really cool.
idea. Great idea. He said he had the idea while they were shooting in the film, and it was a risk because he found out later that CGI water is like the hardest thing to pull off. So
I think they did a pretty good job on that.
Yeah.
So kudos to the team that pulled that off.
Especially on $7,000 budget or $7 million budget.
$7 million. Yeah, $7,000. They did great.
$7 million is impressive for this movie.
Yeah, it is.
But that's what Blumhouse does. People want to shit on him. Like, dude, this guy's making movies that Hollywood can't do. But he's saying it can be done. Why are we spending $300 million on a movie when we can make some? I mean,
I know we bring it up a lot, but look at what the Halloween movies they did. They were really low budget and they made tons of money.
Yeah, he spent a little more on the Halloween movies, but he had Jamie Lee Curtis and all that.
None of them broke 100 million. And I know not many horror movies do, but shit. I mean, when you're making 144 million on Invisible Man's $7 million budget, he's a smart man. And people go see Blumhouse movies.
I mean, he stumped. I love that interview. Do you see the round table where he's sitting with Ridley Scott and all these other people, Jason Blumhouse, and Jason's talking about making his movies the way he does, the budgets he has, and Ridley just goes, because you're non-union. He just thinks it's not union, and he goes, no, we're full union, and Ridley's like, how? Ridley can't grasp how he's making the movies he's making for $3 million or $4 million because the Hollywood system and that Ridley's worked in for the last 40 years is just throw money. And he's like, we don't have to. Why? We can make these movies. And it's really about how people have got so used to just throwing money at everything and just these big spectacle movies. And we can get Out and we can get Whiplash and we can get all these things that this company makes that are great movies that don't look cheap. But it's about, it's about the making good films more than just, hey, let's make big spectacles that were hopefully make, And the thing is, these big, huge movies aren't making that much money. They're about half of them aren't even making their money back now.
No, this has been seemingly the year of the flop. Unfortunate movies like, in my opinion, The Flash and Indiana Jones are kind of flopping at the box office. And you got movies like this, for instance, it would have killed. I'm curious to see how David Gordon Green directed Exorcist does. And even Five Nights at Freddy's, I have a feeling is going to do really well, and it's probably got a really tiny budget, 36 million, not tiny. How much Exorcists? That doesn't say. I'm looking right now. I was curious to see what their highest budget was on any of their films, but I'm having trouble finding it because they're responsible for Insidious, the Purge movies, some of the Paranormal Activities. I mean, there's so many. Happy Death Day, which are a lot of fun. The Halloween movies.
Yeah, he gets as much shit as A24 does.
No, I'm sure he does.
Dude, the A24 and Jason, in many ways, they're two of the they give filmmakers the freedom to do these films and make their films. Is not so much a committee thing, and that's what's really cool about it.
Here you go, right here. Two for this year: Megan, was a $12 million budget, made 181 million, and Insidious, which is still in theaters, 16 million budget. Insidious: The Red Door, it's made 155 million, almost 156 so far. I mean, those are good numbers. So, and plus they don't seem to advertise as much. This guy. So let's do your scene.
Yeah.
All right. Starts off here. It's very dark too. The opening of this movie is very dark because she's in a dark house. It's 3:00, almost 4:00 in the morning. It's the witching hour, really.
Yeah. So this is the opening scene. We see Elizabeth Moss laying there sleeping, her eyes open in a way that she probably was never asleep. And she sees the clock. It's got, I think, at 3:42. So she was waiting for the drugs to take effect. So this is all cinema, pure cinema, really no dialogue other than her saying Adrian to see if he wakes up. But we could kind of follow through her performance, her body language, her steps, but we're seeing how she's playing this all out. And the whole time, the audience, Lee is shooting this in stereotypical ways that the audience thinks he's going to wake up. So she looks at the clock, she gets out of bed, she feels under the mattress. I don't know, I can't even see what that is. It's so dark.
Her hand.
That's all. Oh, that's another thing. Yeah. It's his hand. This is a foreshadowing. His hand is on her stomach.
Oh yeah.
He knows she's pregnant, or she's possibly pregnant, or he probably does know she's pregnant. That's a kind of tell there.
It's a narcissist's intuition.
So she crawls out of bed. She moves his hand off of her stomach. She goes out of the bed. She digs underneath the mattress. She pulls out the drugs. We get a shot of it, so we see that diazepam. Then, just to make sure we know what's happened, she goes back around the bed and picks up the glass and shakes it, and we see that drugs were in the glass. They were on his bedside, so she's drugged him. And she says his name. He doesn't wake up, so she's testing it. And she crosses the bedroom, and this is a shot. Lee is like showing, all right, here he is. She's got to cross, so the audience is watching that scene, waiting for him to move or jump up. And he does move when she gets past out of the shot, but he's just stirring. He's turning over, and then it goes to like the bed, the bathroom, and there he is in the mirror. So he's keeping the audience like, all right, there's a mirror shot. There he is. So he's always present. All right, is he going to move? Is he going to move? Is he going to see?
Which this house works with that what you were talking about before. I didn't realize how open the house is. You can see him in almost every frame. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out. His insecurities, I think, is why he's such a. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and then she goes and she uses his technology against him. She turns the camera. Here she goes in the closet, pulls out her bag that's got her stuff in it. You see her open it. You see Social Security cards. And you're like, well, she ain't staying. She's got her Social Security. She's got her passport. She's got all this paperwork. It's not just clothes and shit. Like she's got her life,
stuff,
her identity in there. She's leaving this guy, and Lee doesn't, bother to show us her situation. We can kind of just guess from how meticulous and how orchestrated she's had to do what she's had to get out of here. And she goes and she turns the camera to face him. So now that she could spy on him, she could keep an eye on if he's still in bed. She pulls it up and zooms in to see him sleeping. So she could periodically checks to see if he's still in bed. And then she moves there. Here he is again, another shot where he's in the frame. She's there. Audience knows, oh, is he going to move? Is he going to wake up? And he doesn't.
Which is great for the tension in this scene.
Yeah. Always got to, like, his presence is there. She goes out. She goes through the house. And then we see, his work. We see this lab. We see those suits back there. We see all these computers and desktops. And
son of a bitch.
So she moves through the house trying to escape. I think she changes. She gets in the kitchen and changes. She goes to the computer. She turns off all the cameras except for his, so she can still watch him, and that he can't see her. He can't go look at the cameras and see where she's at, or where she went, which direction she went. Trying to cover all of her tracks. And she dresses, and she goes out. She stops and sees where the suit is.
Which I forgot to upload that, but it's the hangar where the suit's supposed to be. And
Yeah, it's not there, but
you
hear it. You hear it though, so it is there. It's just invisible, maybe. But that's just probably to hide it from her.
Mm-hmm.
That she doesn't know it exists. But you hear the camera clicking sound that they use to indicate that he's there. And then she exits through the garage. She kicks the dog's dish, so we see Zeus, which sets up that there's a dog involved. They have a dog. A lot of setups and payoffs that he does in this film. The dog dish, the pepper spray that the daughter has, is used, and the fire extinguisher in the burning kitchen, which comes back into play. But here she's escaping through the garage, and just as she's the audience is like, oh, she's out, she's getting out. We hear a whimper of a dog, and there's the dog, and she's like, I can't take you. And of course she does. She's torn, but this is the obstacle that's thrown at our character. Characters have to have the obstacles. Everything can't work as planned, and this is the monkey in the wrench, as I say, and this is what screenwriters will know as the save the cat moment. Screenwriters know, writers know what a save the cat moment is. If people don't know what a save the cat moment is, it's literally what it says. To make an audience like your protagonist, you have a lot of times, or most of the time, if you can, have a save the cat moment, which is the character does something to save somebody or something selfless. And if she didn't save this dog, the audience may not be on her side. But people love dogs. So it's like, save the cat from the tree. The cat's up in the tree. So if you go save the cat. So save the cat moments can be a lot of things. You save a child, or you do something that's a good deed. That's a selfless deed that gets the audience on your side. And all screenwriters try to get that save the cat moment in there. There's books called Save the Cat that are about screenwriting. And this is her save the cat moment. She's saving the dog. And it gets her in trouble. It caught the dog. I think dog or she falls into the car. The dog's butt hits the car, and the car alarm goes off. So now, oh my God, is he going to wake up? And now she darts off, runs to the yard, jumps over the fence. And then she gets into that car, and you think, oh, she made it, because you see the lights coming. There's all this indication. And then when he comes and runs up to the window, it's pretty scary, because you thought she had it. She's in the car. It's safe. She's talking to her sister, and bam, and then he just immediately punches through the window. This guy's relentless. He's not going to be had or beaten. And I like that you don't see him right away when he does too. When he's just banging.
No, you don't.
He's not like down there. He's
almost a jump scare moment.
Yeah.
And one of the best parts, though, it also sets up. I wonder if it set up his plan into motion when she dropped that bottle.
Yeah. So now he knows what happened there, and then he uses it to set up again. He had really good opening, good filmmaking, with setups and payoffs and tension and use of negative space and sound, and again, showing how she's had to live, and under surveillance, she's had to hide all this stuff, and it's not just a woman like, oh, I'm going to leave him. Like she had to plan this and have everything set up and wait for the time, wait for every little step. And again, there's only one word of dialogue through that whole opening.
And it's great because it sets you up that, like, if she's doing all of this and moving the camera to watch him and getting away at 4:00 in the morning, he's got to be an awful person. And there's nothing said about it. It's just all in what she's doing, the way it's filmed. It's like because I remember being in the theater watching this and feeling the tension. Everything, you're right. Every time he's on the screen and you can see him, you're like, Is he going to wake? When's he going to wake up? When's that jump scare coming? Because you feel like that's going to. I felt like that was going to happen. He's going to come up. There's going to be a struggle, and she's going to have to get away. But she gets away almost scot free. If she didn't help that dog, she probably would have gotten away without a trace.
Yeah.
You know, but it also led to, her the tension in that scene is built all the way up until they drive off, because she's waiting for the car to come in the woods, watching the house. You can see all the lights come on in the house, so he's alerted now, and she's waiting. Finally, there's a sense of relief when the car gets there. She gets in, and then bam, fist goes through the window, and there's a struggle, and they drive off. It's a great way to open a movie, in my opinion. A really strong opening for a movie.
And the camera movements and camera things sets up that finale there. She knows where these cameras are pointing.
Yeah.
What the views are.
I just like that she was able to use his technology against him.
Yep.
And still this guy is gaslighting her all the way to the end of the movie. Like, he knows that she knows that he was invisible. He knows that she knows about the suit. And yet he's still making it seem like it's all in her head. Really good stuff. Really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great opening scene. That was a great scene to pick. I mean, you got a lot of great scene moments, like the kitchen scene, or any of these scenes would have been a great moment to choose.
Well, I know you wanted to talk about the restaurant scene.
Yeah, so the restaurant scene, I apparently didn't, the picture didn't upload, but we know that restaurant scene where she's trying to connect back with her sister. And we get that. First of all, I love the waiter asking, "Can we just get water? Tap water, crystal, whatever it is?" And she's like, "Just whatever's free." "Oh, tap water, okay." And I love that, the tension. But her and her sister have little jokes, and she talks about how she needs her strength, but he's there, and you feel that he's there. You got to know he's still there with her. And
well, I do have some things to say, but
go ahead.
I just want to turn it over to Seth because we've been talking for a while.
Yeah, we have been.
Seth, talk about that scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a great moment too, because it was, it seemed like she was finally getting through to her sister. It gave the audience perception that maybe she was going to get some sort of a win, because she was being dealt a whole bunch of L's, and then just as she was kind of reconnecting with her sister, the knife kind of suddenly moves over, and that was a great moment. And it was a scene, because I saw this movie in the theater, I think twice, and it definitely got a reaction out of the audience. Yeah. It was very effective with the audience, and it was a standout scene in my opinion.
Which I agree. And then Seth, it leads to that scene at the end of the movie, because she used the same trick on her, on him, which was fantastic. That's why I think it's such a poignant scene.
Yeah.
What's really interesting about that scene is, and what's really great about it, was how many extras are in the restaurant. Like, it's full, it's packed, and this movie's, so much of this movie is like isolated, where it's just her or just a few characters. They're in big open spot, big spaces that are empty, and they're there, and you're looking at all this negative space. But in this scene, all the negative space is taken up by people, waiters, patrons, shit like that. So I think it almost puts a little security in people, like, oh, nothing's going to happen here. He's not going to be there. He's not going to do anything. He may be there, but he's not going to do anything, because there's like 70 people in this place, bustling and walking around and all that. Nothing's going to happen. And then and it gets real intimate between them. And like you said, as you said, that like she's coming over, she's on her sister's side, or starting to believe her. And then she starts to see something. Now we're just thinking, oh, she probably maybe sees something odd. We're not, and then all of a sudden we see that knife floating, and by the time we see what it is she sees, it doesn't give any time, and right into her hand, and it's like, holy shit. And it comes out of nowhere, and it was just well edited, and again, it's one of the few scenes in the movie where they're in a very, very populated area. where you start to feel a little security because, you know, when people are being chased or, you know, they get to a very populated place, get out in public where there are a lot of people so that you
Yeah.
feel safer.
Which and in that scene right there, it leads to how I think from that point on, the movie was really good leading up to that. But when she's in the I don't know what to call it, the home for the mentally ill or whatever it is, when she's in there and she stabs herself and all this different stuff that happens in that. The one thing I keep thinking, where are all the cameras? Are there cameras seeing this gun floating, breaking hands and stuff? Also, the really cool thing is how well the effects go and how that's shot. Like you can't see anything happening, but like you see a guy's wrist go back, you see the gun floating behind him and shoots a guy. It's like it's a really cool Terminator looking scene. Also, it reminds me of Terminator
Scene,
2.
yeah, very Terminator 2 is very awesome. It's a lot of stuff he did in Upgrade too. It had that energy of the action film that he kind of did in that movie, and I love that moment where she stabbing him and he stops her and she goes, "There you are," and stabs him. I was like, oh shit! Like again, it's that Nancy Thompson shit. I set your fucking ass up. She's plotting. She knows what he wants, and she's gonna say, I'm gonna get you. This is the bait. And you know the audience is watching it because of her performance, thinking, "Oh, she's trying to kill herself."
Yeah,
And she's gone through that thing to steal that pin. She's hit it with the ticky tacky or whatever the hell it was that she had to hold it. Again, all these little details of setting things up and making things work, and then just that moment where she just, there you are, and stabs him, and then then we start to see this great stuff of him coming halfway into visibility and going out, and it's that amazing hallway action sequence.
yeah, and I mean this movie, like you said earlier, it's one of those movies that can be seen in different light. Not a horror movie or a horror movie. It's just a really great movie, and what a way to kick off this decade of horror. With this movie, really, this was like we left off 2019, 2018 with some really great horror movies. What a way to kick this decade off.
2019 had what, 3 massive great horror films?
Yeah, I mean,
Midsummer and Us and Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, great. It's been a great 10 years or so of horror, and then we get to 2020, and we didn't get to see much, but at least we got to see this. And then 2021 and 22 really picked up the slack, because what did we watch? Between 60 and 70 movies last year alone that were horror.
Yeah.
That were probably supposed to be released the last couple of years before that. But man, this movie's awesome. It's underrated. It's underappreciated. It's on Peacock, by the way. If anybody has not seen it, it's on Peacock. If you've got the app, check it out. I recommend not watching it with commercials. I think commercials can be tension breakers, which happened to me. What was it? The Romero movie, Martin. It kind of messed Martin up for me, which unfortunately Seth missed that episode last week. We got you covered. We're going to do a full episode on Martin, though. And it's going to be all you saying everything you need to know. Me and Nate are just going to sit back in the cut like this. Yeah.
Good point, Seth.
Yeah. Very good, Seth.
I doubt it. I know Nate.
That's okay. I think that'll be a good conversational episode. That between that one and what was the other one we decided to do? It was another Romero, wasn't it?
Crazies.
The Crazies. Yeah, those are two. Yeah, those are two really good films. It was funny. Seth was watching that episode on Monday or Tuesday, and he's like, "I agree with what you and Nate said about such and such." I'm like, "Damn it! I wish you would have been on the episode because I know you would have had a lot to say."
I listened to it the next day, and like as I'm listening to you guys talk about the movies, I'm like in my head I have like responses, and then I'm trying to text the chat.
I think I even said that during the episode. I was like, "Damn it! I wish Seth was here."
It's kind of like when I'm not on the shows that you two do, and I'm like listening. And I'm like, "Want to jump in here?" So I'm like in the comments. Yeah, it's like it's hard. I remember like one time I couldn't get connection, and I think it was the Mandy episode, and y'all were just going on. I'm like, "This is my movie, and Ray is destroying it."
Yeah, actually, that's one that I think I want to do some revisit episodes from the early season. That's one that I want to revisit is Mandy because it would be my fourth time, and maybe fourth time's a charm. I don't know, but yeah, man,
Do I have
let's
to
look
come
at.
into it dressed like a referee?
No, I don't think it would be that bad. I've come around on a lot of stuff the last couple of years, though. You got to admit, like things that I say, oh, I hate this movie. Like I'm like we're getting ready to do leather. Actually, here I'll show on Wednesday. We've been doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies for the other show, and we've got Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw. So I'm really looking forward to rewatching Leatherface because I know Nate, you are not as hard on it.
I was turned around when I watched the last time.
Yeah,
Like,
so
I didn't hate the movie when I saw it, but I didn't think much of it. When I watched it again, I'm like, this isn't bad at all. It's just different. It's just
right,
not. It's not what people think of Texas Chainsaw. But like maybe that's what Texas Chainsaw needs because Texas. I think when people think of Texas Chainsaw, they just want the fucking first movie again, or they want the second movie, and some of the sequels are that, and it's kind of like it's because it's these franchises need shaking up. That's why people want to shit on David Gordon Green. I love that his trilogy are three different films. They're very different films. They're not the same fucking Halloween movies. I mean, the one that most people like is the first one, and the first one's the most like the other fucking Halloween movies. And
there you go. Yeah, we're gonna be talking Halloween movies here coming up too, and I'm really looking forward to the chance to take another gander at Halloween ends because I've not watched it since last year,
but I
and
know it well, yeah, Halloween ends. I was thinking Kills. So now you said you came around on
I've
Kills.
come around on Kills, and so like this will be I think my third time seeing ends, and this will be my third time seeing Leatherface. So like sometimes like Keith says, as wise as he is young. Uh, he's right though. Sometimes it takes a few times to really come around on a movie because I wasn't hype on The Witch, and I really love that movie these days. So,
I fell asleep on The Witch when I saw it in theaters. Granted, I was really fucking tired.
well, I had trouble. I told you
But
my experience. I had these girls over here laughing and talking about this movie's boring and shit. It's like, okay, you think it kills a you don't see this guy Sean does not like anything, but he likes this. I'm so confused by you. You are an enigma, sir. So anyway, yeah, so we got that's what we're doing on Wednesday, Texas Chainsaw 3D, and
which I like that one too. You know, yeah, it had that silly timeline issue. I don't know how that happened, but
yeah,
apart from that, I don't dislike that movie at all. I think
no, but
I think Dan was a great Leatherface. I thought it had some good ideas. I am not bothered by "Do Your Thing" because I don't know why it bothers so many
it's just a
people.
funny line.
It's just the fucking
it's the one thing most people remember is
you know,
that line.
lick my plate, you dog dick. I mean, it's not
That's
like this
the better
amazing.
one.
Yeah, it's good, but like, what's so wrong? Like, do your thing, cuz it's a trailer one liner moment. I mean, it's a line. It's no different like Schwarzenegger saying like stick around, shit like that. I mean, it's like Predator's an amazing movie. That's a stupid line in a great movie.
But at least he's cheeky about it too. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to watching both of them. We last week I watched Texas
But
Chainsaw the beginning and then the remake, and I like the remake a little bit more this time around. And I think it was because of the way I watched those two.
I'm not gonna call Predator a piece of shit because of the stick around line. You know, it's like that's what people do. I hate that. That line is so stupid. That movie's a piece of shit. What? Because of the line? Like the one line in a 2 hour and a half movie? Okay, that's all it
Yeah,
takes.
Predator. I almost called it Predator. Predator is a legendary movie. Uh, and Arnold is known for stick around stuff. I don't know. I just think people do get hung up on the weirdest things with some movies. Even I do that. So you know, I'm looking forward to rewatching both of them because I
Enjoyment,
haven't seen them since 2020. So what's that?
enjoyment dies tonight.
See, I can look past the Evil Dies Tonight stuff on Halloween Kills, and even the complete thrashing he takes from the the people of Haddonfield. Just to I don't know. It's going to be
Take
fun
forever.
rewatching the Halloween. I love watching the Halloween movies. So
Nobody thought Michael Myers was going to stay down.
right. It's
I was gonna say I like Halloween Kills, but I do understand Sean's comment about Kills having the worst dialogue. It's the
It does.
script is not great. You know, I think it's an entertaining Halloween movie,
mhm.
but I fully acknowledge that the script is not great, and it's. I think the big reason why I'm not looking forward to the new Exorcist movie because the same co-writer Scott Teems is doing that, and he also wrote Firestarter from last year.
Oh,
So that's where I'm not really excited for the new Exorcist.
I want to talk about that when it comes out. I'd like us all to go see it together. I wish we could, but I'd like to do a show on that because I didn't think about it until the other day when the posters were released. Which I like the posters, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw the posters that were released, but that's definitely one I'd like to talk about.
are there two girls being possessed?
I
Is that
think
what-
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was confused about that, but I saw a still from the trailer they showed over the weekend. I guess some people saw it with Oppenheimer, and I saw a still, and it was two girls in the same shot. I was like, oh, this is going to get interesting. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I've heard bad things about it, but I'm still looking forward to it. So. Listening to
I watched the trailer. There was like
you saw it?
It was online.
How'd you see it?
It was pretty much bootlegged online.
Why didn't you send it to us?
And I went, okay. I figured you guys would want to see it officially. I was very curious, and so I searched it.
Can you confirm that it is two girls?
There is two girls that get possessed.
Two girls in a pizza place.
I don't know why, but that gave me goosebumps. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. I don't care what the reviews say. I'm excited.
Alternate title: Two Girls, One Priest.
Lick me.
Congratulations. That made my night.
I'm a believer.
All right. So let's do some final thoughts on the Invisible.
I do have some notes. So I don't know if I can get to them there. Yeah,
let's
since
do it.
I'll just go. I just wrote as I was watching. I was writing stuff down. This one's just a line. I like the line about when she goes out to the mailbox and he says, "That's the furthest that you've gone since you've been here. As far as I'm concerned, you just walked to the moon." That was really cool. I really like James. I thought he was a very likable character. And adds that sense of security. So you kind of like if this guy can't protect her, who can? And not only is he huge, but he's a cop as well. So
yeah.
But he seems like a really genuine good guy. Ladder scene, negative space, breakfast. The breath on the porch scene is really cool.
Oh, the shower. We didn't talk about the shower scene either.
Oh yeah, the shower scene. A little nods to the original movie. Adrian's Coates' house is 1933.
Oh.
When she wakes up in Storm's bedroom and sees the hat and coat and all that on the rack, it looks like the original Invisible Man. He's got the glasses and the fedora and all that. And then they see the guy in the hospital with the bandages, which is another nod. Some guy pointed out he thinks that the movie I just talked about tonight, The Invisible Man Appears, was born in 1949. The T-shirt that James is wearing has a 1949 as an establishing year of the school on his thing. So I don't know if Lee's paying homage to that, but it's possible.
I think Lee Winnell is a horror scholar, so that could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else I have? Sadist, even a brother, gaslighting, minimal score, suicide, hospital escape. Okay, so a lot of the effects were used as a green with the guy in a green suit for the Invisible Man, but they also
Right.
used this practical old school strings and shit, pulling doors closed, doing things like that.
That's cool.
Um, so yeah, like when you don't need CGI, like I just had this great story I shared online about, there's a lot of talk about Oppenheimer and how he didn't use any CG to do the bomb. Um, I was reading about how in Tenet, there's that scene where the plane crash, the 747 crashes into the hangar, and I guess they went to the CGI or miniature team and the bill they gave them, the quote to do that digitally was so alarmingly high that they like went another route and like actually just went and bought a fucking 747 and actually did it, and it was cheaper than what
That's
it than using
insane.
CGI.
Jesus, that's insane to think about.
Yeah, so you're looking at like this movie again, $7 million budget, and they're like just using strings to do shit. Like, another movie would have done it all digitally, but why not? You just remove the string, or there's little things you could do that you could save money. Let's see. They shot the film in Australia because that's where Lee's from, and there are no pine trees in Australia, so when they shot when there was pine trees, they shot it actually on a plantation where they grow like Christmas trees and pine trees and for furniture and for Christmas trees for Christmas season. And it was really hard to find suburban looking homes that look like America. So the house that James lives in, they had to really search for that house in Australia because apparently nothing looks like that really over there. So I talked about Cecilia's name. The camera rig, when they would do the invisible stuff, they had a computerized camera rig where it would do the same shot. I found this really interesting. If you watch behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
the camera is programmed to move the same way so they could shoot a clean slate where there's nobody there, and then they could shoot it with the stuntman and the green suit and all that. But when they would do that, Elizabeth would have to perform, and they would be counting off because she had to move on certain counts. So as they're filming that fight scene in the kitchen, someone off camera is going 1, 2, 3, and she's having to move on certain numbers so that it matches, so they can pull all that off digitally in post. Which seemed really crazy. But he said Elizabeth Moss was like great at it, like she was able to really do it, which is very difficult to be acting in the scene, being scared, being in an action scene, and having someone go 1, 2, and you're having to be on that rhythm. Adrian Tom, people could be. Oh, this someone. One of the cast members brought this up in the making of, and I thought it was really interesting. They said we're living in a society because of social media and things where all of us can be invisible if we want. We can go by different names. We can go by bullshit like false profiles, hide our names, hide our identities, and be as awful as we want to be. And that's what the Invisible Man does. He can be as he can do whatever he wants because there's no consequences. No one knows who he is, and no he's there. Same way with this technology of people now saying, like, again, all this criticism we see, these people wouldn't say this shit to people's faces in person and do these things, but they have the anonymity and the invisibility to hide behind the computer screen and the invisibility. Just like the Invisible Man will go out and rob banks and commit crimes that he wouldn't do if he could be seen and be held accountable.
Or like what Kevin Bacon does and goes and molests the neighbor. Hollow Man.
That too. I talked about the oneer in the kitchen and Final Girl. Okay, yep, that's all. That's all I had.
Okay. Why don't you do your final thoughts on the movie, and then we'll have Seth do his and wrap this bad boy up.
Again, I don't know. I think I'd maybe watched it once other time from seeing it in the theater. I did have the DVD. I don't know if I watched it before now, but it was unwrapped, so maybe I did. But this was like at least the third time watching it. And watching it, I'm like, this is just fucking solid. There's nothing bad I can say about this movie. There are no missteps. This is a very tight written and shot, cut, executed thriller, horror film. I know Seth loves the Wolfman remake. I think this is the best of the new rehashing of the classic Universal monster movies. Because there's just no flaws at all in this.
There's no flaws in the Wolfman remake either.
You say so.
Right.
I think this is the strongest film out of those attempts to rehash Wolfman. And I'm not taking anything. I'm not. Well, The Mummy and isn't there another one like Dracula Untold or whatever? They're trying to make that monster universe. Like I think Seth brought it up. Like they try to make them action movies.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't work. It's not like these aren't
Especially
fucking Marvel characters.
And
yeah, it's just that's not what it is. And I'm really excited because from what I hear, Guillermo del Toro's working on doing this, building a monster universe
for Netflix, right? Because I heard he wanted to do something with. He's making a Frankenstein film.
Yeah, and I think that guy's the perfect one to do it, and I think he'll do it. I like The Shape of Water was amazing. It was a great film, and I hope his Frankenstein is in the same zone as that. But yeah, when like seeing stuff like if you're trying to make that Van Helsing movie or The Mummy or just don't do it. Like
I like Van Helsing.
I didn't like Van Helsing. Jackman? I didn't like it. I don't think these aren't. It shouldn't be action movies. They're monster movies. Make them monster movies. And The Wolfman was a monster movie, and The Invisible Man is a fucking monster movie. So
and this is a tech monster.
And they're both rated R, right? Invisible Man wasn't Wolfman rated R. So this is the way to go.
Now you're talking about the 2010.
The 2010 Wolfman, yeah, it was a rated R film, I believe. It's very violent, very horrific. Make them horror movies. Make the characters monsters. Make them scary. Keep it gothic. And even though this movie isn't gothic, it works for now. I would love to see Guillermo del Toro set it in a gothic time, or at least the 40s or 30s or whatever. I guess Shape of Water was probably the 50s, probably like.
I think it was the 40s, wasn't it?
40s.
Right, yeah. I'm trying to look right now to see if I can see anything on his Frankenstein production, if there's any little bit about it, but I'm not seeing anything at all. Like
I just hope that audiences go with it because today's audiences, for some reason, don't.
1962. Holy shit! Shape of Water was 62. Sorry.
So yeah, I hope that audiences will go with period horror films because ever since like Psycho and Texas Chainsaw and all that, horror has kind of been stuck in the present of when those films are being made. And when like he made Crimson Peak, he was trying to resurrect that old haunted manor.
We need to talk about that movie. I like that movie, and it gets nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to it next year probably, but still, I'm curious about the new Exorcist. It's one horror movie left in the year, and I have no interest in Saw 10. Sean, punctuations, man. We'll just make your own decision, like you always do.
I'm going to see Exorcist regardless of what.
Oh, I'm seeing it opening weekend if I can. I'm actually excited about it.
I mean, I
you are
ends and go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, even though I'm not looking forward to the new Exorcist, I am going to be there opening weekend. I'm going to be there with an open mind. I'm going to want to love it, or at least like it.
October 13th. Just saying. Is that a Friday the 13th?
David Gordon Green is a great filmmaker. I know people change their minds with the Halloween movies, but
Friday the 13th.
Everything he made before the Halloween movies was good, in my opinion. And
what did he do? I don't remember.
I know he did Mud and George Washington and Pineapple Express.
Pineapple Express.
Yeah,
he's a good filmmaker. He made a lot of dramas. Starting out, people kind of took Pineapple Express as the definition of it. He's worked on a lot of the Danny McBride TV shows. Like he's directed, I think, some of the Righteous Gemstones, and
That show's amazing, by the way.
Yeah, and Eastbound and Down. I'm sure he directed some of that. Because they all went to film school together, like him and the other filmmaker, Jody Hill, I think, is the guy that did Eastbound and Fistway. But David is a very, very talented filmmaker. Yes, Kills had its issues, Ends has its issues, but people have just completely written Exorcist off because of those two films or how they feel about Halloween. And they're gonna. It's just like I know people hated Last Jedi, but Rian Johnson's a good filmmaker, and people have liked the movies that he made that weren't Star Wars.
Yeah, he should stay in his own lane.
Yeah, but there's people who won't watch,
The Glass Onion,
Glass
really
Onion or any of that because they hated Last Jedi so much. I'm like, you're missing out on good films.
No, he's a good filmmaker. I agree with that, but he needs to stay in his own lane if you ask me. Make his own stuff because that's where he really thrives. Because The Glass Onion and Knives Out, terrific movies, and Looper. Let's not forget about Looper.
I think that's the catch-22 of IPs is that they keep handing IPs to visionary, independent auteurs, and then they're saying stay in the lane. And you don't ask Stanley Kubrick to make the Avengers 4. You don't ask.
Could you imagine?
Just like Tarantino said, I don't want to make a Marvel movie. I have no interest, and it's like, of course, because he makes Quentin Tarantino movies. He doesn't make Marvel movies. So
I do think that if Rian Johnson, I don't want to get into this very much, but I do think if he would have made his own Star Wars movie and not be part of a trilogy, it would have been phenomenal. That's what I'll leave it at that for me.
I'm really interested to see what Rebel Moon is.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
What Zach did.
Yeah.
And it's probably better that he didn't have to stay in the parameters of Star Wars and he won't be judged, even though some people will look at it and go, well, it's just Star Wars.
Zach kind of even said something. It's in the same breath as Star Wars.
Yeah, we should look at it as the same way when Luc Besson made The Fifth Element, because he was basically making his Star Wars movie.
That was what took me out of that movie when I first saw it, by the way. This is the new Star Wars. I'm like, don't call it that. Let it be its own thing, please. And it is totally. So, its own thing.
But it's totally French. Totally Luc Besson.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. That was one of my wife Elizabeth's favorite movies, The Fifth Element. That Twister and The Fifth Element were like her go-to movies.
I remember I didn't love it because that was very different for him because he's coming off The Professional and La Femme Nikita, so it was like this total left turn because it was so quirky, it was so comical and it was a different tone than he was normally doing. But then you go back and you watch it and like, oh, this is a fun movie.
It is. Yeah. It's a fun movie. A lot of weird quirks, a lot of fun characters. I like that the big muscle bound big actor of the time is all afraid when that attack's going down, and then you got Corbin Dallas, kick it. That's another good Bruce Willis movie, really, if you think about it.
And Lulu's great. Multipass.
Oh my God, she is. Lulu Dallas Multipass.
Yeah,
gotta love her.
Big bada boom.
Big bada boom. It's also kind of an emotional movie, especially after she finds out what humanity's all about and everything, and eating all that chicken. That's one I definitely need to watch with the kids because it's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a kid
I'm not going to mention Star Wars at all. That's what really upset me when it's like, why are they calling this new Star Wars? Now I'm going to have an expectation going in. Anyway, that's my biggest problem. Nate, is there anything else you want to say before we have Seth finish up his final thoughts?
Nope.
Again, we could probably talk for hours about anything, but
Yeah.
Is it my turn yet?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I think this is a good sort of modern day take on the Invisible Man, updated to modern times. Taking in the technology that we have now, and I think it's a very well made thriller. You know, a part of me when I saw it, I love the technique behind the filmmaking so much that I really had, especially when I saw it, I had the novel fresh in my mind, and I really like kind of wondered what it'd be like to see if Lee Winnall took his filmmaking technique from this movie and applied it to the H.G. Wells story, because there's a lot of great moments of paranoia and all of that in the novel, especially when he's in the town of Ippen. Um, I think that would have been kind of really cool to see, but I'm not so beholden to it to the point where I dislike this movie. I think it's a good take. Again, I'm glad that they brought it back down to being a horror movie, small budget. Another thing I wanted to mention too, because I know Nate kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. This isn't a movie with like a lot of choppy editing, and it kind of had like almost like an old school filmmaking type of style to it, almost like our Lord and Savior John Carpenter, who has very he's very patient with his filmmaking, and and it just kind of reminded me of that old school type of filmmaking, because I feel like, especially over the last I don't know how many years, but filmmaking has seemed to kind of almost rely a lot on editing lately, and like it's kind of annoying to me. So like I like the stuff of like Carpenter or Hitchcock, where you or even early Spielberg, yeah, where you can like have you have the patience. So yeah, I enjoy the filmmaking of this, and I think that's the big appeal for me. I wish that he did do the novel, but I do appreciate what he did here, and it is the Invisible Man for the new age, with this technological age, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of something that they don't do in movies, which is make period horror movies. I think that would go over a lot better. There's some films that I do believe that belong in a certain time frame, like a Frankenstein or a Dracula film. But I like the way they brought this one to the modern times, and I think they did a great job. Elizabeth Moss is an absolute powerhouse in this film. She carries the movie in so many ways, and I love this movie. It's got to be in the discussion of my top 10 for this decade. It's got to be somewhere in there.
It's a completely satisfying film.
It
Again, we
is.
talked about that ending. It's you walk out of that movie. It's like we talked last week or the week before about Miss Marcia Gay Harden being killed in the mist, and like, oh yeah, like when she gets them and she's like, surprise, I got you. Like,
Mhm.
it's and you walking out confidently. Like she walks out when she walks out to talk to James. She is her own woman. She is free. She is completely free of the prison she's lived in, and she is confident and she is walking with her head up. It's a very satisfying movie. Um, it's a shame that what happened at the timing when it came out. Is I just think people forgot how good it was, and I was glad we did it. So, what are we doing next week? I forget. The Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, a movie I am extremely excited about. I love this movie.
No.
This is a movie that I wouldn't say it's as good as Jaws, but it's one of those that I could pop in at any point in time and just I fall in love with the characters every time I watch it, from Carol Ann to Craig T. Nelson to Tangina. I love this movie. It's one of the best ghost horror movies, whatever you want to call it, haunting movie of all time, in my opinion. And this is one I cannot wait to talk about because I love this and the sequel, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And, it's just a great movie. I cannot wait till next week to talk about it. So Poltergeist, if anybody doesn't know what that picture's from. So I hope you guys are ready to watch that one because that's my personal pick for July, because I think the Mist was for Jared. He didn't get to be on the show, I don't think. And then this one was for Seth. But I think really when it comes down to it, a lot of these movies we've spoken about the last few months or this season, I guess, have been movies we've all pretty much enjoyed for the most part. So.
Yeah, Poltergeist is quite possibly like the first real horror movie that I saw and really watched a lot and loved because it came out, what, 82? Is that what it is?
Yeah, 82.
So I was 6. And
The year Elizabeth Moss was born.
I probably saw it when it hit cable in 83. So I was probably 7 when I saw it. And I remember it being on cable, watching it a lot in the early 80s. And it was because it's scary, but it has that Spielberg vibe that all of his stuff had. And so it, like you said, Jaws, E.T., because E.T. had horror elements in it.
Sure, yeah.
This just pushes a little further, but it's Spielberg's attention to family is really what is at the core of his
That's
films.
one of the elements about this movie I love is the family element. Just like with Jaws, one of my favorite things is following Chief Brody and Hooper and
his family.
Yeah,
and
exactly, in his family.
In Close Encounters, when you meet Richard Dreyfuss and a family, it feels authentic. It feels like a real fucking family. That whole scene where he's working on the train and the TV's on, the kids banging shit, and she's like on the phone. It's like that was so real. And E.T., when we see the E.T. family and the boys are sitting around the table and Gertie's there and mom's cooking and they're calling into the radio, oop, oop, Papa Uma Mao, all this stuff, and he comes in there. There's just it's just perfection, and the Freely and Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams are so great, and this Carol Ann, like Heather O'Rourke, just has this iconic look like Drew Barrymore had. There's just I'm really looking forward to this because I've never really dissected this film.
Exactly. This is why I'm really looking forward to it, because you wouldn't believe what my 2 favorite scenes are in this movie. One of them breaks my heart as a father, and then the other one, it's just, I don't know what it is about it, but it's the scene where Craig T. Nelson comes home, and she's got the chairs out of the way and the arrow, and she puts Caroline, that burn, or whatever, I love that scene because the way it's shot, you can see Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams in the background as Carol Ann's sliding too, and then you see her jump up like a cheerleader. I love that scene. It gives me chills. I don't know why. And then, of course, the bathtub scene at the end, when they come back, they put him in the bathtub, and Carol Ann just says, "Hi, Daddy." It just breaks my heart every time I see that scene. So I fucking love Poltergeist. I know Seth doesn't like ghost movies, but Seth, you like Poltergeist, right?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm not psychotic.
I know it's not by our Lord and Savior, but close enough, right?
That's true. But Spielberg's okay. Spielberg's all right.
Spielberg may go down as the greatest director of all time, but he's okay. Anyway, so that's next week.
Yeah,
so
no, he's no Carpenter.
Yeah.
And I guess that Toby Hooper guy is okay too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Toby Hooper. That's something we're gonna have to dig into, is like, because there's that big question: who really directed this? I do believe Toby Hooper did direct this, but I do believe Steven Spielberg was around a lot because you can feel his DNA on this movie. So
it's kind of like when the director steps in to direct a television series. The television series stays pretty consistent, and I think it's like it's all Steven Spielberg blueprint. And he's there to call action and cut. I'm not saying he didn't put his input in there and wasn't but it's so. But at the same time, like everything he produced has that feel. Like although some movies feel like this movie doesn't feel like a Toby Hooper movie.
No.
But we never seen Toby Hooper make a movie like this, so we don't know that. It's like,
that's not true because Toby Hooper made 2 great movies about family. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
When you watch Gremlins, you could see Spielberg, but you can definitely see Joe Dante.
For sure, yeah.
So, but you still see his fingerprints and stuff like Goonies, even though Richard Donner was a great filmmaker, established filmmaker, but still got that Spielberg thing touch, a little Spielberg fairy dust. on there.
I mean, Spielberg had his fingers in a lot of stuff in the 80s too, man.
He was a producer on Goonies, right? I'm not like off on that, isn't
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Isn't that another Amblin Entertainment movie anyway? Now I gotta look because
Probably.
otherwise it's gonna bother me. We gotta be. Oh, Goonies is on Hulu. What a great movie. Yeah, based on a story by Steven Spielberg
Yeah.
and a screenplay by Chris Columbus. Wow, those are some big names. Richard Donner. Wow.
Yeah.
We
It's
should-
amazing how many talented guys. I mean, a lot of them knew each other, and a lot of them were working with each other. You know, Zemeckis and all that. You know, it was a great time for film.
Would you guys be against doing a Goonies show or a Monster Squad show at some point?
I love them. I definitely Monster Squad.
Who is the better? You don't like Goonies? Goonies
Oh, I love Goonies. Yeah, Goonies is a better movie. I know people don't think that, but it's like it's the near dark Lost Boys thing, you know, and you know, I mean, funny Lost Boys was supposed to be Goonies with vampires originally.
Yeah, I can see a correlation between the Monster Squad and the Goonies, but they're very different movies in my.
Yeah, it's like Fred was not trying to make a Goonies movie; he was trying to make a Little Rascals movie.
Right.
And you know, I mean, he already had that movie planned before, like it's even mentioned in Night of the Creeps, which was what 86.
Yeah, it's another good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's close up shop for the night because again, we could go on for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next week we're doing Poltergeist, and everybody, if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you haven't liked the page, please do. And we are finishing up our slasher 80s slasher weekend. Right now, I think it's going to be the last two. Will be, I think it's Halloween. No, Friday the 13th Part 4 versus Halloween 2. So. Which one do you guys pick? Halloween 2 or Friday the 13th Part 4?
Halloween 2.
Halloween 2. And Seth has his finger. Okay. So this is Seth's reaction to that.
Come on, man. You know you're a Halloween guy.
He is a Halloween guy.
John Carpenter wrote one of those movies.
But this is also right. Exactly. You're trying to sway the vote. But this is also his favorite Friday the 13th movie. Is this a Sophie's Choice situation for you?
No. There can be only one.
There could be only one. Let me double check because
only one of those movies has Dr. Loomis in it.
True. But it was really close because I put up Halloween 4 and Friday the 13th. No, Child's Play is what it is.
Only one of those movies has Ben Tramer and Dana Carvey in it.
So now it's there's one more before the final. It's going to be Halloween 4 versus Friday the 13th 4. And then whoever wins that one goes on to Halloween 2. So there you go. Halloween 4 or Friday the 13th Part 4.
Halloween 4.
Halloween 4. Come on. Halloween 4. Yes.
Halloween
4. Yeah. Halloween 4. I'm ready to talk Halloween. All right. Anyway, you guys have a great night. We'll see you next week. Seth and I will be back on Wednesday for the final 2 Texas Chainsaw films. And remember, Poltergeist next Sunday, July 30th. We'll see you next week. Bye.